Welcome to FACT's webinar called Success with Interns on Your Farm. Our presenter today is Annie Warmke. This webinar is hosted by Food Animal Concerns Trust, and I am Larissa McKenna, FACT's Humane Farming Program Director. I'll be moderating today's session. Thank you all for joining us. To begin with just a very few quick overview introductions. FACT is a national nonprofit organization, and we're headquartered in Illinois. We promote the safe and humane production of meat, milk, and eggs, and I direct FACT's Humane Farming Program, which provides a number of funding and training opportunities for livestock and poultry farmers. This webinar is part of our Humane Farming webinar series, so please visit our website to learn more about all of our other farmer services. So at this time, I'm very pleased to present our presenter, Annie Warmke. Annie is a social entrepreneur who also serves as a mentor in FACT's Humane Farming Mentorship Program this year and last year. She's passionate about growing businesses that not only sustain the owners, but also benefit their employees and the community. Annie has successfully started several nonprofits, women's funds, and her own small business, which is called Blue Rock Station, and it's a sustainable living farm center in Ohio. So we're incredibly lucky to have her with us tonight. And I think without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor over to Annie so that she may begin her presentation. Annie, please take it away.
Okay, well, I'm glad to be here despite all the technical difficulties. Rural America is sometimes quite a challenge when you want to be having access to high-speed broadband, and so hopefully we'll get through this without any kind of other interruptions, and any meeting will let me stay on. So anyway, welcome, and I'm glad you're here because I'm really passionate about interns and investing in particularly young people around sustainability, and particularly as it applies to agriculture and farm life. Tonight, I am not going to be talking about legal specifics because those are unique to each farm situation and each locale, and so FACT nor myself want to be in the business of giving legal advice. What I'm going to talk about is really how to have a very effective intern program that benefits you emotionally and physically, and also benefits the intern as well in the same ways. So the first thing that has to happen in terms of interns is to have some way to really see how do they follow through. And we have, if you go to bluerockstation.com, you'll see we have a page for interns, and we have photos. We have a day in the life of an intern, so it walks the intern through a simple way for them to know that housing is very simple. Everybody's expected to live as a family. We cook together, we clean. So it outlines all of those things. It also has a brief survey that has some questions on it that help me to understand more about how they think in general. So I'm not trying to necessarily know them completely, but it asks things like, do you like tattoos? Do you like animals? And one time somebody said, no, animals don't like me. So that was a unique response. And it turned out that when I asked what that meant, it meant something completely different than what they had conveyed. So what we're trying to do then is in that application form and in the survey to begin to see what is this person capable of? What do we find in common with them? And what is their follow-through? So when they send the application online and they fill out the survey, which comes along with it, I look at that, and then I will send them an email, and I will ask them to contact me in a specific kind of way. And the reason I do that is because I want to see how they follow the rules in the beginning, because this is what I say is like we're dating, and it's got to go perfectly during the dating, because eventually we're going to be married, and it might not go well if it doesn't go well in the dating. So I look at their application and everything, and then I ask them to telephone me. And we also give the option that they can visit. So people that live or go to school near where we are within a couple of hours sometimes will come for a visit, bring their family, and that's great. We like that too. On the phone call, we're going to discuss rules and guidelines and my basic philosophy about sustainability and life. We're going to talk about how they feel about being working with a woman versus maybe if they're in engineering. We do have a number of engineering students that come to us. And engineering is very much a male-oriented profession. So how do they feel about that? And then once we've had a discussion, I will tell them a couple of things. One is that I don't want them to tell me right then that they want to be an intern. I want them to think about it for a couple of days, and I'll say a specific amount of time. And then I'd like them to get back to me in writing through email and let me know what they've decided, and then I will have that same time to think about it. Sometimes, and this is amazing to me, they'll be very enthusiastic and they want to be an intern. It's the most important thing, whatever. And then if they take too long to get back to me, or they get back and they didn't follow through with waiting the 2 or 3 days, they'll usually say they changed their mind. And this is fine, because we don't want to invest any more time or effort into the process if it's not going to work out. The reality of their relationship with us is that they are going to live with us as part of our family. So they're going to have to follow along with a number of basic rules and insights, and if they can't do that, it's not going to work out. So one of the things, once I tell an intern that they are accepted and we're happy to have them with us, and we send them a list of things that they'll need to bring, I say, please don't make any kind of travel arrangements like airfare, airplane tickets, or train tickets or bus tickets until you have spoken to me, so that I'm clear that I can meet you and make sure you're where you need to be. And if that person does not listen to me and they go ahead and make the reservation without talking to me first, it never works out. So there are different things that you look at and try to understand about this person and how they're going to work with you or not work with you, and what are some things that you have in common, and just general outline. The reason that you want to do this is because if you really want to have an effective internship program, you've got to look at it as a partnership between you and the person that's going to be living on your farm or with you. And you have a lot invested in the outcome, and you have as much or perhaps more in it than they do. So your goal and your role in that is to give affirming guidance and give it often. So, for example, we're very specific about when people first come, we have a list of things that we want to accomplish. We've already defined with them some things that they are thinking that they would like to accomplish. If you're having interns and they're not involved in the goals and the outcome, it's probably not going to be as meaningful for them, and it's going to be more difficult to have that strong work that they can push through to the end. It's easier than if you have work with them to come up with goals and lists of what they're going to do. So we have a timeline that we create with the goals, and that's all posted on a whiteboard in a common area. We also work together to create a menu for the month, each month at the beginning of the month, and we also have a chore list that's very basic, like sweeping the floor in the common area, doing the dishes, which you do if you don't cook, and washing the sink in where people take a bath and brush their teeth. So these are really simple, and it contributes to the bottom line, and everybody feels good about the follow-through with that. And then, of course, there are lots of other things that we're going to do, projects with building things or food production or whatever. The other thing is that we give a lot of positive affirmations. So at lunchtime or in the evening when we're eating, we'll talk about the day, we'll talk about what went well and what was challenging and what we might do to rectify if there were challenges. We're going to check in regularly to get feedback on how they're doing. Many times during the day, I'll say, how's it going? How are you doing? How are you feeling about what you're doing? And the most important thing probably is that we have opportunities for honest and authentic and upfront conversation. So if there is a challenge or a real problem, we can look at that and we can put it on the table basically, and we can talk about what those problems are and how we're going to solve them and how we're going to solve them together. And this is a big challenge today because many of the interns that come to us, they're often coming from university, but sometimes they're not. Maybe they're woofers. So woofers is a group for opportunities in organic gardening, or maybe they're coming from couch surfing, or maybe they're just they went online and they found us online. They come with very high expectations, and they want to do well, and we want them to do well. So we set these guidelines as part of their intern application, and we identify what's in it for them and what's in it for us. And you'll notice if you do go and look at that, the day in the life of intern on the website that I talked about, you'll see that we have in there what to expect from us and what we expect from them. So it's very clear. And this helps us a lot when there are challenges or things that don't go right, be able to fall back on those things and say, look, this is what we agreed to, and we need to fix things. It's rare that we have a problem, but when we do, we have that to fall back on. We also are very clear about what our responsibilities are and what their responsibilities are, and we say we want to see a good mood because that's what we're going to bring to the table as well. The challenge is, as I started to say, that interns come here. Sometimes they're very tired because they've just finished up a semester or a quarter at university. Maybe they've been at another firm and worked super hard there, and they're very tired. So the goal is to help them to actually get their brain there and get acclimated, because it's a very different lifestyle to live with us than it is to live in a city or at a university. It's very, very different. And so we want to be very clear up front, as I said, about what our expectations are. We also want to identify value systems. So one of the things that we make clear from the beginning is there is no drinking, no drugging, and no smoking. And we say this is not a religious value for us. This is about a lifestyle that is authentic. And so don't come here to quit. And this has happened a couple of times in the early days, which our internship program started about 13 years ago. So we'd have somebody come that wanted to quit smoking. Well, personally, I don't want to be around people who just quit smoking because they're ready to kill somebody. So we don't want people to come with that in mind. A lot of times interns are coming because they're looking for something or they're running from something. And so early on, we want to identify which is that, and then we want to say, no, we want the people who are coming to something, coming to learn, coming to share, coming to be a part of something so that they can learn what they came to learn, and then they can translate that into some values and some leadership around sustainability and in their life, in the city, in the urban area, wherever it is they're going to. We also want to identify their work ethic. Sometimes that's not as obvious, but when they first come, you know, what's their self-motivation? Are they self-starters? How do they work? So that enables us to be able to see how we're going to work with them and supervise them and work with them. If they have a very poor work ethic, then it won't work out. It will be over very quickly. Normally, our internship program lasts between 8 and 10 weeks. We find that anything longer than that, that they need to really go back to where they're from and put some of these things in practice. We have occasionally had interns come back and stay with us for different kinds of reasons, and that was really wonderful and fun. But those first 8 to 10 weeks, they learn a lot. I like to say I've got 5 minutes of your life and I'm going to teach you everything I know. So I need you to go back out into the world and figure out what that means. We also want to see and identify in them a sense of independence. With lots of people, there is this sense of not being able to think on their own what it is they need to do or how they're going to do it. Many interns come, they actually are very sick in their gut, and there's some need for them to eat really healthy and do some medicinal herbs and things like that so that they can begin to feel better and have more energy. And then we're going to look at and try to identify their ability to take on a task, and this again comes back to leadership. So once they're here a couple of weeks, we begin to work with them to identify a project they would like to have leadership on. So they learn the project management, they learn the timeline, and they learn the skills to make it happen. And this is really powerful, especially for students who've gone to university or just getting out of some kind of education program, and they've been learning a lot of things in books and podcasts, but they've never actually done the work. So it's very powerful for them to take on a task and actually create something. And then the other thing that we like to say is don't be afraid to make mistakes. So all of the projects really take into account that mistakes are needed and they are positive things. So we're going to make room for mistakes. And if there aren't any mistakes, we often say, wait a minute, you aren't working hard enough. So we have a saying, hit it like you mean it. So when you're using the hammer, which Jean-Philippe here is very poorly holding this hammer. In this picture, he's a fifth-year engineering student, and this is the first thing he's ever built. There's a great sense of power in actually believing and dreaming something and then making it happen. We also want to create a sense of security. Without a sense of security, without feeling safe, there is not going to be room for making a mistake, and there is going to be a lot of insecurity around just in general of how it's all going to work and if we're going to, kick them out because we don't like something. So we want to build confidence early, and we do that with providing opportunity for responsibility. We want to explain how things work, and we're going to do that a lot in meetings with everybody or individually. We're going to be very careful to list steps in writing on a board so they can see what's going to happen, and we're going to take the time to cross off those steps so we get a sense of accomplishment. And then as a supervisor, I'm going to sometimes work along with them, but most of the time I'm going to step back and I'm going to watch. I want to observe their sense of accomplishment, and I want to continue to point out that that's what they're feeling, and this is really the food of life. So once they're feeling a sense of accomplishment about their project or what they've learned and now they're putting it into practice, we begin to see a lot of confidence, and that's what is really needed in young people today. We're going to list everybody's skills, and we're going to set up times to learn from each other. So we have a board where everybody writes down what they might possibly teach us, and then one afternoon a week we're going to pick a topic. So maybe we're going to learn to play the ukulele. Frankly, I was really bad at that, but I enjoyed watching everybody else learn. We also do cooking class to learn simple, easy foods, so when they go home and they're very busy, they can translate some of the menus and some of the foods that we eat here into their lifestyle. I'm trying to think what else. We learned how to make cheesecake once. We've learned how to make cheese, how to play games. It's all very good because what happens is then each person begins to feel more confident about their own skill sets, and they're, during the daytime, learning new things, putting new things into practice, so there's this constant learning environment. And we're going to evaluate regularly, so we're going to say, well done, or you need to fix that, and then we're going to move forward. We provide education, so we do field trips. Last year, one of our interns was interested in biogas generation, and we read a couple of books together, and then we went to visit somebody who had built a biogas generator, and then he came back, and some of his friends came from college, and together they built a biogas generator, which we're going to use in one of our new projects. We want to identify individual skills and what they have in terms of goals for that, and we want to try to build those into what we're going to be doing, whether it's pulling weeds, whether we're mucking out in the barns, which we say we're being soil farmers, and we talk a lot about what that means. We want to be able to create meaningful work, so whether it's shoveling poop in the barn or harvesting vegetables or nursing a sick animal or whatever that is, washing the sink. It's meaningful and is valuable, and it contributes to everybody's bottom line, and that's what we're trying to promote in our intern program. As I said, we do have cooking classes. It's amazing how well some young people value the cooking, even though they've never really taken home economics or anything like that. But they definitely enjoy learning how to cook other things. So we do have a menu every single day. Our main meal is around between 1 and 2. And different people cook at different times, and we spend a lot of time looking at menus and looking online for menus, looking up things like how to make a vegan cake, or how do we make, or I'm trying to think, some kind of a stir fry that has special herbs in it. So we're going to look at how do we teach each other what we know, how do we use chia seed to make a cake rise, things like that. It's really quite fun. We're going to exchange skills between ourselves and the other interns, and that has great value, and that happens. It doesn't seem like a forced thing. We have a lot of interesting discussions in the evening. Last year we had an intern who was Muslim, and we read the Quran together and talked about different ideas and what things meant, and it was quite interesting. We also build project management skills, so we want the person to create a project and then list the skills and the things that need to happen in that project to reach the goal, whether it's just the first phase of the project or the whole project. And then we want them to be able to figure out how much time each thing's going to take so that they learn these skill sets, which are going to benefit them in whatever job and whatever things they do in life. And then we're going to step back out of the way and ask them to take the lead. One of the things that makes the program successful, I think, is because we're trying to build a sense of community. And I really didn't think about this as a value to the program so much until the first few years when we had interns and they would leave. We did kind of an exit survey, and we would have a party, and I'll explain that in a minute. But in the exit survey, the number one thing that they valued and the number one thing they felt they learned was actually quite shocking to us, and that was how to live in community with other people, how to solve problems, how to solve disagreements, how to celebrate when things went well. These were all things that they felt were skill sets that they had no idea before they came. So that was quite eye-opening. I like groupthink, and so I enjoy having a number of people come together and solve problems or look at solutions or help create a party or whatever that is. I think that's a very powerful way to make things happen. As I said, we also eat together. Our main meal, we cook together and eat together. People are on their own for breakfast, so they come into the kitchen and they can prepare whatever. There's always granola, and there are eggs and milk, and a lot of things that are available, and they can help each other cook, or they just do that individually. And then in the evening, we have what we call snacks. So that could be a lot of things. It could be popcorn, it could be a smoothie, it could be ice cream sundaes, but it's not a big meal. And it's generally fun, and sometimes spontaneous. And then, as I said, we do chores together, so we milk goats together, we muck out, we clean up certain areas of the main part of the building that's used by everybody. And whatever else needs to be done. And we always ask people to have a willing heart to chip in. And we support each other in work. So there's a lot of encouragement. There's it's like a wave of things. So even if someone is wanting to kind of be a bit negative, I think it's hard to do because we're saying things like, all right, well, that didn't go well. How are we going to fix it? Or if something got broken, we'll say, are you okay? Instead of, like they often say to me, well, if that had happened at my house, my parents would have said, well, you big dummy, why did you do that? Well, that isn't how we want to live our lives, and so that isn't how we treat people. The other thing we try to do, and I think we do well at this, is to celebrate accomplishments. So when we have, I just realized, Larissa, I am not telling you to turn the slides. Are you with me now? I'm at the slide where the women with the hard hats are on.
We
Hello?
are, yes, we are on the slide with the hard hats.
Oh, that's so good. I'm just chatting away, and I suddenly realized, wait, I didn't tell you. So just to explain that I can't see exactly what everybody else can see because any meetings didn't like me and wouldn't let me in. So anyway, so just to say, so what we do is we celebrate when we reach the end of a goal. So for this particular project where the women have the hard hats on, we were building an extension onto a building, and these women, two of the women had come as contracting students, studying to be contractors in France, and they've never built anything. So we had a really grand time building this, but then what we would do at the end, which we did on many of our projects, is we would have actually cut a ribbon, and everybody would cheer, and we would have a toast and really honor all the hard work that went into it, and everybody would be quite excited about it. The next picture is a kind of a goofy picture of Nance Thomasy, who has actually become a very famous celebrity in France, and he was one of our engineering students, and this is my husband and partner, Jay, and they did a lot of cooking together, and Nance taught Jay how to be quite a good bread maker, so it was a really good experience. On to the next slide, which is about health. So we're working very hard to be healthy. It's the basis of sustainability is to be able to eat well and to achieve health. So working hard is part of that, and it's not just physically working hard, but it's also pointing out the value of having a sense of accomplishment and a sense of purpose. So that's why we keep a list of all the jobs that need to be done, and we make a production of crossing off those jobs each day. There's often a lot of cheering and saying, can I be the one to cross it off? And also in celebrating that we have achieved our goals by cutting a ribbon or doing a dance or whatever it is. We also have the value that we're going to take care of each other. So we tell the interns from the moment they arrive, if you're injured or you're ill, you are absolutely expected, you must come to the house and tell right away what's wrong because you have to value yourself, and we want to take care of each other, and we want you to take care of us. We also teach a lot of alternatives to the medical model, because we want them to learn about plants and animals and nature, and so a lot of times they will learn things that really change their life about medicinal herbs and plants, and it's really cool. And sometimes they know stuff and they teach us. We also take wild food walks and gather wild food, particularly in the spring, and make salads and pesto and different things that we can do with the foods. And I don't know why, but people seem to really love that, and they often talk about how that was one of their best experiences. And then we also talk regularly, and most every day, in fact, about our accomplishments and our goals, and where are we with those things, and where are we going with those things. So the next picture is, unfortunately, I think some of the women are cut off here. And it's not that we have all women, but we do often have women as our interns that are the majority of our interns. And the Bobcat, which is a piece of the heavy equipment, we try to rent that a couple times a year because we need to move the muck from the barns, and we often have other things that we need to move. And so everybody's expected to learn to drive the Bobcat, and this is a huge deal, especially when you see some people how they drive it. But it's a huge deal, and it's a big confidence builder to get in that seat and make that machine do what it needs to do. And again, it seems like a minuscule kind of thing, but it's a big deal, and it creates a strong sense of cheering and community and everybody comparing how it went, all that stuff. The next slide talks about creating a tribe, and one of the things that we hold very dear at Blue Rock Station and in our business model is the fact that we need each other, and how can we come together and create a sense of connection. And I think if you want to have an effective internship program and build relationships that won't just last during that time that they're there, but as they grow as an adult and in their life and in their professional life, I think we need to create these connections of stories and sharing and real authentic communication. So we also like to create opportunities for reconnecting. So twice a year we have some events. We have what we call Goat Stock, and this is something that was completely created by our interns a few years ago. And so in the summer, we will have a 3-day weekend where anybody who's been a student of ours or an intern can come for the weekend, and we have little workshops around a variety of ideas and things that the interns have brainstormed in the winter with me. And we'll have live music, we'll have a film outside like the old-fashioned drive-in kind of thing. We'll do a walk in the woods with the goats. So and there's a lot of reminiscing. We make tie-dye things. We have lots of fun things that we can make, so we have things to remember our reconnecting with. And then we have a party for the winter solstice, which is right before Christmas. So students are just leaving the university to go home for winter break, or they're getting ready to go to their family. And so it's really fun. They come for the weekend. We have a nice big party around Yule, and then they often stay all night. And then the next morning on Sunday we have what we call big breakfast. And we have a little advisory meeting, and we talk about what our goals are for the next year or two, and they give us feedback, and they know a lot about us because they've lived with us and they've stayed connected. And then we sit around and eat leftovers and look at baby name books, and they come up with the baby names for the next goat herd that'll happen in the winter when we have kids. So there's all this reconnecting, there's all this sense of something lasting, something valuable, and they see the things that they've done living on, and it just really builds a wonderful, strong relationship. It also promotes the fact that they've done something of value. We encourage them to bring their parents, their friends to visit while they're here as interns. And also when they come for goat stock or they come for Yule, we hope that they will share how they feel good and how that might make a difference for somebody else. We're also available to write letters for them or recommendations. We've helped many students get scholarships or into other programs by being available and kind of putting ourselves out there and supporting them. And as I said, we encourage their personal families to visit, and that can really make a big difference. So the next photo is one of our interns. She was getting her master's degree when she was with us, and this is at an awards banquet that we went to. And it was really fun to see her and see what she's up to and how well she's doing. So interning brings people together in new ways, and that's the next slide. This is a group of students from a high school, a Montessori high school, which you don't hear those two words together too often, but a Montessori high school in Cincinnati. And this is really when we were first living on the farm, and all of these students and their advisors came and they built this plastic bottle greenhouse, which is behind them, and they built it in one day. And we used a lot of the principles that we use in our internship program. Now, we actually were experimenting a little bit when they were with us that weekend, and and they were great. They just had such great work ethic, and they were a lot of fun. And we knew then that having interns was really where we wanted to be. So I can't say enough about why we should have interns. I think those of us who have land and have expertise and have resources, I think this is a way that we can invest in the next generation or two, and I think we owe it to others to do this. I think we owe it to ourselves because it gives a sense of hope and encouragement about the world and the students that are coming. I mean, the young people that are coming up through the ranks. It also brings new books, new music, new ideas, new ways of looking at the things that we're doing. And I really believe that even though we have had great success at Blue Rock Station, I don't think we would still be in business if it wasn't for the 80 or so young people who've come down the lane to work with us in a variety of capacities. And that's not just, we have lots of students. We've had thousands of students, but these are the people that we've really connected with. And of those 80, I would say we have about 5 that didn't work out. And that's pretty good as far as I'm concerned. I hope I can keep that track record. So I think we're going to stop now, Larissa, and see if there are any other questions. I know one of the questions that someone sent in, and I'll just say that since we're kind of changing gears, was asking where did we find interns. And I mentioned earlier that they find us online on our website. They find us through searches on Google and different places. Many interns have come to hear us give a talk or teach a workshop, and then they want to come and be an intern. And then through WOOF, which is WOOF, which stands for World. It's like WWOOF, Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, and you can register your farm there and hope to find some wonderful people that want to come and work on your farm. The other thing that I want to say is that in terms of the legal issues around internships and people volunteering on your farm, there's a farm to consumer group, which I think is super helpful, that can give advice. And we work with a couple of people, which I didn't ask if I could give their name, but through Women Grow Ohio, which is a women's networking group for women who are in agriculture, we have an attorney that has done some webinars with us and is really a good resource. So those people are out there to ask for information around the legalities of workers' comp and liability insurance and all that kind of stuff. And each situation is unique to the person. We also know that there are some challenges around internships because often people, they're not looking at it the same way we are. And I would encourage you to at least look at the guidelines that they're putting out here today, because I think if you just look at interns as free labor, it doesn't provide the same meaningful experience. So, Larissa, did we have any other questions?
We do. Thank you, Annie. I kind of want to be an intern on your farm, though. So I'll go through what we've gotten. Yeah, we've had several people write in. So do you have a process to transition a few interns into apprentices? And if so, what does that look like for you? Is there a longer term kind of educational opportunity on your operation?
No, we don't want to do it. We feel like that we're going to give them 150% for those 6 to 10 weeks. And then it's kind of like when you go to college and then a lot of programs say you can't go to grad school until you've had a year away. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we're sort of like that. We're saying, look, we got a lot of things into your head right now, and you've got to go out and you've got to see how that applies. And yes, we have had interns come back and work with us on projects and live with us again, and more in an apprentice mode. But we just really have seen the value of saying, nope, gotta got to draw the line right here. And sometimes there's lots of crying and they don't want to go. And it's like, nope, got to do it. Got to kick you in the butt and get you out there because we need you. You're our fearless leader now, so go for it.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things I will say, too, that we do that's super fun is at the end we have a party. And we call it parting gifts party. And the person that's leaving can decide what they want to have. So they'll pick something they really loved that we made to eat, and we'll have a really great dessert of some sort. And then everybody makes a parting gift for the person. And then we sit around as we're eating and tell the things that we learned from each other. And it's really wonderful. And oftentimes they'll say, I never felt so loved in my whole life, which is amazing. Which is partly why there's sometimes lots of crying from me too sometimes. So.
Oh. Yeah, it sounds like you have quite the community. Well, kind of, so another question actually has to do with conflict resolution and how have you dealt with it? Such as, interns that have been very opinionated or have been fearful or struggling, taking direction from people that are, giving the direction or trying to keep them safe. How have you dealt with that?
Well, we have regular meetings, so we have lunchtime where there's opportunity to talk about a variety of things, and I think we make it very safe to do that. I also am super upfront if I see anything that I think is an issue, good, bad, or indifferent, to put it on the table so we can talk about it. We have had a couple of times where there was inappropriate behavior, and we said, look, you agreed when you came here. We sat down and we had as we say, a come to Jesus meeting, and we had a lot of interns in this particular case, and I met with them ahead of time, and I said, look, this is what's going on. I need this person to leave in order for everybody to be safe, and I just need you to understand what I'm about to do. And they were like, well, let's give him another chance, whatever. So the group wanted that, and I said, okay, gave him another chance, and it ended up very badly. But they were great. When they realized that it wasn't working, they said immediately, let's have the meeting together. Let's tell him together as a group, he has to go. And these are not common ways of communicating in the real world. So conflict resolution is about owning what's happening and what we've agreed to, and trying to fall back on those guidelines, which are spelled out very clearly, and then saying, we're holding you accountable. Everybody is depending on you doing the right thing. But if you don't, you're out. And I know the one time the guy said to me, you'd kick me out? I said, in a New York minute, because I have to think of the program and what we're trying to accomplish. And if you're lying or you're doing drugs or you're being inappropriate with somebody and hiding things, this is not the world that I want to live in. And if you have a chance to make it right and you don't do it, then you must go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to do that more often in life, where we say, all right, we gave a chance, let's move on. We don't have to subject ourselves repeatedly to this bad behavior.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that. We've actually had a lot of questions come in about paying interns, if they get paid, if so, how much, and if not, are there other perks? It sounds like perhaps there might be credit hours through a university or housing and room and board. How does that work on in your program, Annie?
It's different for every single student that comes, every single intern, and so some of them are getting credit hours from their university or college. They actually are expected to pay to live with us. The reason being is that they are coming to learn. They are not coming there. So just let me say, when you go to college or the university, they don't apologize for saying you have to pay so much per credit hour. And so we do give scholarships. Most of our interns do not pay to be with us, but that expectation is there, so there's a value placed on that education experience. So they pay by the week, and in exchange for that, they get everything they need. They get food, they have housing, they get field trips. Whatever we do, if we go away and they go with us, we pay. But there's this understanding that this is a learning experience and it's dead serious, and this is the cost. So we don't have any trouble getting interns. What we have a challenge with is finding the right ones.
The right ones. Yeah, it sounds like you have quite a process for. And I was going to ask you, you said that the application and the survey, are those available, the ones that you use there on your website? Is that for other folks
Blue
that
Rock
could?
Station. Yep, BlueRockStation.com. The last slide has the has the website on it. We also have podcasts and webinars there, and a list of our workshops. And there are some podcasts there that are one of them specifically is with one of our interns from last year, talking about internship program, and her name's Destiny. She was a wonderful intern with us, and has stayed connected with us, and she's doing a really great job in the things that she's doing in her community. But she talks a lot about how it influenced her and what changes she made for herself and so forth from her experience. So I invite people to listen to the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll include a link to that in our follow-up. So another question, someone is wondering if there have been interns that have had serious injuries. And
No.
then I guess,
No.
okay. And do you, what do you do about health insurance for interns?
We don't have health insurance for interns. So here's what we do. We say right up front, if you are ill or you are injured in any way, I don't care if it's a splinter or a scratch, whatever that is, you have to come immediately and identify what has happened. We're very careful about safety. Everybody has safety equipment. If people are climbing, we have I can't think of what it's called, but you have to wear like a strap that hooks onto a rope. No, we absolutely have never, in all these years, never had anything bad happen. And lots of students, lots of interns do have their own insurance. We've never even had anybody get like really ill or anything like that. No, it's just, I think a lot of it is this expectation that we all help each other, that we work hard. And if somebody is about to do something really stupid, people are not afraid to step in and say, wait a minute, man, that's not really good common sense. Let's try something else here. So, and everybody learns how to drive, equipment. And we probably have been lucky, but I think it's mostly because we have an expectation that people will help each other, and bad things are not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I sound like Pollyanna.
So how many interns do you usually have on your farm at a time? And kind of, could you talk about maybe what would be an appropriate number of number of interns for a certain farm size? That's a question that came in.
So I have had as many as 9 at once, but it was too much. It wore me out because I'm going to give everything I can to them, and I want them to be busy and having a sense of accomplishment every day. This year, I think I will only have 2. I've had lots of people apply, but their follow-through has been very poor. And as I said in the beginning, if they aren't doing well at the beginning when we're basically dating, when I get married part is not going to work. So I have an intern that's coming that's an engineering student, and we're very specific about what we're going to do with him. And then I think I have one coming from Uganda in Africa. He's tried several years to get a visa and has been unable to, but I think he will this time. So I I have no idea. We also have these, what we call tiny house weekends once a month. And so we have a lot of former interns that come back for those weekends, and sometimes they'll stay longer. So I know the next one is coming up over Memorial Day weekend, and we're going to be, blasted with with former interns. We also have AmeriCorps students. They call them volunteers, but they aren't. They do get paid a small stipend. They come a couple of times a year, so they'll be here a few days at different times to work with us on different things. So, and we have students who come. So we're very busy. And so I'm not sad to only have one or two interns right now. But then things can change. We might have 4 or 5 that apply all at once, and they seem really good. And so then I'll decide if I'm going to take them all on or one on, or, I have that autonomy as the boss and the farmer. I can do as I please. So we'll see. I think it's not about the size of the farm. It really has to do with the person who's going to lead the interns, and the ability that person has, the skill set that person has to keep everybody busy, keep everybody focused, help them to really feel good about what they're doing and get a sense of accomplishment. And that takes a lot of work, and I think it takes a special skill set. I don't think everybody can do it.
Excellent. Well, thank you. So I have 3 more questions if you have time for them for you that have come in. One, actually, a lot of people, there's been a couple of people that want to know about if you could describe the housing situation. If you have, is it within your main lodging? Is it separate? What have you tried that wasn't practical or perhaps didn't work in the past, or has it always worked for you?
We have tiny sleeping cottages that are made out of clean waste. So all of our buildings are made out of tires and cans and bottles and straw bales. And so each intern has their own sleeping quarters. So that's all it is. It's a nice bed. They have a fan. And, of course, they have electricity. And then the rest of the time, there's plenty of space. We have 40 acres, so they can hike. There's some really nice areas outside where they can, watch wildlife, or they can ride, or whatever they want to do, or practice their guitar. And then there's a big common space inside the house that we live in, and that's where the kitchen is. And that's the kitchen and the living space, like living room, where there's the ability to watch, videos and things like that, or play music. That's all common space. So they have a lot of variety of space, and so they initially have to kind of learn how to use that space, but they also have privacy. So we have 4 sleeping cottages, and actually if we have, like when we had the women who were contracted students, they stayed in one cottage because there were bunk beds and they wanted to stay together. So we can sleep 2 to a cottage, but generally it's just one person in each cottage.
Gotcha. Okay.
Was that everything you asked me?
Yes, I think that describes it. I think
Yeah.
folks, so the other question I'm just scrolling through, someone wanted to know, let's see, if you kind of partner up with other farms for workshops and other kind of training, or is it everything kind of happen for the most part on your operation?
Well, we have several things that we do. So we do what we call field trips. And we have occasionally gone to other farms and helped do a project there to help out and learn some things. We also have classes that we do around we call goat college and cheese making and solar installation. And we can give scholarships to, especially the solar installer one, which is a $1,000 class. If we have a couple of slots that didn't get taken, we will offer that to our interns. So they have a lot of opportunity to do a variety of things. We have interns that leave here that get certified to install wind turbines and solar panels, solar arrays. These are things they couldn't have afforded to do on their own. So they're paying us a small stipend to learn, but in return they're getting skills that earn a living, that earn a living wage. So we have a variety of things, and I look all year for field trip opportunities or opportunities with other friends or people who are doing interesting things so we can go and visit a garden. One year we went to West Virginia, to Moundsville, and went to the Hare Krishna community there, and we built a little sleeping cottage, and they got to participate in that. So it just depends, what's going on and how we can incorporate them into it and make sure they get as much opportunity as possible.
Excellent. Well, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time, including yours, Annie. But the last question I have that's come in, I believe, and if there are other questions that we didn't get to, I'll certainly put you in touch with Annie for any kind of follow-up. But could you describe the process that you've undergone working with universities or the different colleges to establish interns within an academic program? Or is that something that the students kind of work out on their own and, come to you after the fact?
Most of the time, this has happened as a result of our work getting out there. And so some of the colleges and universities that we have worked with initially might be that I give a talk somewhere and I connect with a professor or someone who's in some kind of leadership. But a lot of times it starts with the student. That student sees they're going to do some kind of co-op program and they don't really want to do the conventional, I'm going to go work in a corporate office. They want to come and, do something with us. And that kind of leads the way. Or engineering students are, in the early days where the word sustainable, they weren't thinking about that. So occasionally there'd be an engineering student come along and say, look, I'm really into solar and renewable energy and there's nothing here. So I want to go over here and work with Annie and Jay. And so one of the first things we did was we had a student come from University of Dayton, and he came in the winter just to visit and talk to me about what he wanted to do. And so he and I built a rocket stove together, and he was great. And he started bringing the professors and the other students, and so now we have a long-term relationship with the University of Dayton, and we teach them classes there. They send their students here. They have engineers that travel to other parts of the world, and they come here for a one-day workshop on safe travel. So we've been able to really develop some very strong relationships with academics, but at the same time, that isn't all we're looking at. We want a well-rounded person to come as an intern. So we don't care if they graduated high school or not. We don't care if they're in university. It doesn't matter. We're looking at work ethic, follow through, their view on life, on the politics of life, their ability to connect. These are the skill sets we're looking for.
Oh. Well, on that note, Annie, I just want to thank you so much for this really wonderful presentation, and for everyone that's stayed with us. I do have just a few housekeeping items to share before we sign off this evening. So you will receive, everyone that's on so far and in the follow-up email, a very brief survey as soon as we close out of the webinar. If you would take a minute or two to just fill it out. There are just a couple questions. We'd really appreciate it. And like I said before, that following this webinar, the slides and the recording will be available. I'm going to email them, those files to you tomorrow, and also everything will be posted on our websites. So this is the last webinar that we're going to be hosting for a few months. We usually take a break during the summer due to the very busy, growing season for all of you. But not to worry, we will be back in the fall. We will have a whole new lineup of different presentations. So far, I have some scheduled about multi-species grazing, and then also how to phase off of using nitrogen fertilizer for your pasture. There'll be a whole bunch of other ones coming up too. So please stay tuned for more information. I'll be sending emails and making sure that everything's posted online as well. So on that note, I'm afraid that is all the time we have for today. It's been a real honor and pleasure to have you, Annie. Thank you for being with us this evening and sharing, all your experience and over the years establishing a really wonderful program. And I also like to thank everyone out there in the audience for your interest and attention. I hope that you all have a very wonderful evening and that you please keep in touch. Good night. Goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.